It's 8 months since this Cosori Turbo Tower Pro Smart arrived in our home, and as I still get asked a lot of questions about it, I thought I would do a bit of a progress report on how it's holding up and how I've been using it in our family home. Now, first of all, 2 things that you need to know. This air fryer was gifted to me by Cosori back in August last year, but they haven't asked me to make this video and they don't pay me to say nice things about them. Secondly, I'm in the UK, so I'll be referring to the UK model, which is usually the same as the European and Australian versions, but it may be slightly different wherever you are. So a very quick outline on what this air fryer is. There are 2 versions of this 10.8 litre turbo tower, a standard and a pro, and it's the pro which I've been using. Both are stacked models, so they're great if you're short on worktop space but also need the capacity to cook for a family. And I hadn't actually thought about this until I sat down to make this video, but the difference that swapping our side-by-side dual drawer air fryer for a stacked model has made is that I now have permanent space on the worktop for my bread maker. And you know what it's like with appliances, if you have the worktop space for them, they get used much more often. And so in a practical way, what that's translated to is not only did getting an air fryer 3 years ago change the way I cooked, but actually getting a stacked air fryer has also changed the way I cook because I now make bread every day. If you're looking for a stacked air fryer, the advantage that both the standard and pro versions of this model have over other stacked models is that they have overhead heating elements rather than ones at the back like the Ninja. And I find that that helps distribute the heat more efficiently. In addition to that, the Pro version is PFAS free, which means the non-stick coating is free from forever chemicals. It has 2 heating elements in the bottom drawer, and it can also be operated by an app. Some of these features are more useful than others, and I'll give you my honest opinion of them as we work through them. So firstly, let's start with the non-stick coating. I would say without any hesitation that this is the best non-stick coating that I've come across in an air fryer so far. As a comparison, I've had some pretty terrible ones over the years, including this one where everything stuck to it and it was obvious that it was going to look terrible after a few washes. I also still have a Ninja AF400, which I bring out occasionally for doing comparisons, but really it's hardly been cooked in. However, if you look at it closely, the non-stick coating on the crisper plates is full of tiny little scratches and chips. And sadly, this is one of the frustrations that I see a lot with Ninja air fryers. In comparison, this is what the crisper plates look like after 8 months of use in this Cosori Turbo Tower Pro. It's been used pretty much daily. Obviously, I do test other air fryers in my kitchen, but my teenage son in particular is always cooking things in this Cosori, so it does get a lot of use. And we don't do anything particularly special to look after it. The drawers go in the dishwasher at least once a week with the crisper plates. They get washed in the sink most days. And every now and again, if I notice build up on the drawers, I will give them a quick clean with baking powder, a little bit of water and a cloth, and that works amazingly well. Of course, this being an air fryer, there is still some dirt around the heating elements, and I haven't done anything about that, or to be honest, even looked at it prior to making this video. We do cook roast potatoes, bacon and sausages, and all of those things that result in oil splattering. And this air fryer is no better or worse than any other model in that respect. As I mentioned in the first video that I made, the Turbo Tower Pro has a rack included for the larger drawer. If you're cooking on 2 layers, the top layer of food does tend to get browner than the bottom layer. But we found that that's really a small sacrifice for the convenience of having the extra cooking space. And actually, nobody really cares what shade of brown their breaded chicken is, as long as it's cooked through, which it is. So if you're thinking about buying this model for a family and wondering if you can cook enough for 4 or 6 people in it, you absolutely can with the aid of the rack in the bottom drawer and by having your sides in the top drawer and then shaking them. So some of you will have heard this before, but one thing that we have changed about this air fryer is we've added appliance wheels. I've done a separate video answering all the common questions about this, but we like them, some people don't, but I just find that they are very helpful when you're tight on worktop space and you're pulling your air fryer in and out on a daily basis. Now onto the heating elements. As I mentioned at the start, the bottom drawer of this air fryer has heating elements at the top and at the bottom. This is something that Cosori first introduced in their dual blaze model a few years ago, and they've also got it in the twin fry. And I've never been entirely convinced that the bottom heating element actually contributes anything really worthwhile. But I've also met people who would strongly disagree with me. The advantage of it is supposed to be that it does away with the need to shake your drawer. But I have to say that when I'm cooking in it, the habit of shaking the drawer is so deeply ingrained now that I do it anyway. So I would say the bottom heating element is a nice to have thing, but not a need to have. And next, let's talk about the app. Now, there was a bit of confusion about whether this model has a remote start feature on it, because if you go into the settings on the app and set up the drawers with time and temperatures and settings, it does have a button which says start cooking. But if you press it, it will then ask you to press the start button on the appliance to begin cooking. And as far as I'm aware, this is the case with every Wi-Fi enabled cooking device sold in the UK. It's a safety feature mandated in the EU, and as we have the same models as Europe, we get it as well. However, what you can do with the app is set the drawers up ahead of cooking, monitor the cooking progress from another room, and get suggested times and temperatures for different types of food. I connected my phone to the air fryer 8 months ago when I made the original video so I could test out all the features, and I'll be entirely honest, I have never used it since then. However, do let me know in the comments if you have this model and you use the app regularly and what you use it for. So the number one question I see about this model is whether it's worth the money and whether it's better than other big brands who make stacked air fryers. It is the most expensive stacked air fryer, but I think the non-stick surface on it is so much better that it's worth paying a bit more for. And another thing to consider, there's also now a Turbo Tower Compact, which is 8.6 litres, so 20% smaller and about 40% cheaper. And it's still PFAS free with a ceramic coating. I've got it in my kitchen at the moment, and I'm going to be doing a video on that coming up in the next week. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to see it. Links for the Cosori Turbo Tower models are in the description, along with details about the differences between the models. And if you click on the links to buy, it also helps support this channel. Thanks for watching.